There's a trophy in Journey that I feel doesn't get the attention it deserves. It's called Reflection, and most people in a typical playthrough would totally miss it. Hell, I even missed it. It's rather hidden, and in order to obtain it, you have to jump through some hoops. But I think what the trophy says about what Journey is trying to accomplish as a game is important nonetheless. The description of the trophy states, "Sit and meditate with another player for more than 20 seconds." This meditation feature is simple, yet not very obvious to the player. And being honest, I went my entire first playthrough of Journey without even knowing this feature existed. The feature itself on PS4 consists of pressing the options button and then the traveler proceeding to sit down. And that's about it. The player is given free reign over the camera, and all you're left with is the ability to observe and take in the world around you. This meditation feature, albeit simple, is in my opinion vitally important, yet super underappreciated, and not just Journey, but also Journey's spiritual successor, ABZÜ. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. So with that, I present Journey, ABZÜ, and meditation. Now, for the sake of this video, I think it's important to look at how meditation is generally used in video games before I expound on meditation in Journey and ABZÜ. And spoiler alert, it's typically not utilized very well. I mean, when you think about it, meditation requires slowing down and being mindful of oneself and one's surroundings. And that's hard for a lot of games to do, admittedly, because games nowadays are just so big that slowing down and just existing and taking in a game world could A, totally destroy pacing, or B, draw unneeded attention to the flaws of the game. And I understand this, but when meditation is implemented, it is just implemented in such a half-assed way that it makes me appreciate when meditation is implemented right in games like Journey and ABZÜ. A perfect example of meditation being implemented poorly is Witcher 3. Meditation in this game is basically a glorified sleep function. Nothing makes it different from sleeping in a bed in, let's say, a game like Skyrim or even Minecraft. You meditate for a certain amount of time, and then the time of day changes. And I'm not trying to point out Witcher 3 specifically, but this is the kind of stuff meditation is typically used for in video games. It's never about the meditation itself. It's just a means to an end for a game function. But this preconceived notion about what meditation was in video games was figuratively blown out of the water when I played ABZÜ for the first time. It's hard to describe ABZÜ as anything other than a game that's brimming with purpose, from the environments to the countless fish to the exuberant lighting. Everything from start to finish in ABZÜ is purposeful, and this purpose in ABZÜ is perfectly complemented by the inclusion of meditation statues in the various environments throughout the game. All of the statues aren't always the easiest to find. They show natural continuation and evolution of the meditation concept introduced in Journey. These meditation statues come in the form of a stone shark, usually covered with sand from years of neglect. The diver approaches the statue and immediately is prompted to sit and meditate on it. But there's a catch. The focus isn't on the diver as it was in Journey with the traveler. It's the fish and the sea life of the environment around the diver, and you're able to follow each and every sea creature in this particular environment. And being honest, when I first experienced the meditation in ABZÜ, I was speechless. It totally changed my perspective on just about every facet of the game itself. Before this point, I would swim by the hundreds, perhaps even thousands of fish, and just think of them as an aesthetically pleasing complement to the visuals of the game. But when you're meditating, you just realize how much time and effort went to each and every one of these fish, and just how important they really are to the game. Their movements and their natural behaviors, they're all here. You can even see fish eat other fish. And as I described earlier, there's purpose in the thousands of sea creatures you encounter throughout the game, and that's something most games can't even fathom. Detail is hard. And as I was talking about earlier with meditation in other video games, most games don't have the amount of detail to afford the ability for a player to just exist in a virtual space and take in every aspect of it. Hence why meditation in most games is a gimmick, and not actually representative of meditation itself. But ABZÜ and Journey, albeit relatively short, have environments that brim with detail and mystique. The worlds of these games are just deep and beautiful, and I find it interesting that one common thread between the two is meditation. I mean, when you think about it, it makes sense. When you take into account the messages these games are trying to convey, whether through the shark or the light on the mountain, these games go out of their way to be metaphors about life. You go on journeys in both games, and as mentioned earlier, these games are short. Sure, you can rush through them and be done relatively fast like a speedrunner, but that totally defeats the purpose. I commend the work that both That Game Company and Giant Squid did for these games. And even with how successful both Journey and ABZÜ were, I still think a lot can be taken from the game design philosophy both these games follow. Longer, bigger games with less detail isn't always the way to go. I personally love short games with details upon details to dive into, and the ability to reflect on those details at one's leisure is a huge plus for me as well. And although the meditation feature in Journey and later ABZÜ isn't the centerpiece of either game, I do think meditation was quintessential in crafting both the identities of these games. Without it, something, at least to me, would feel missing or incomplete. And I'm glad the game designers at both studios took the time to make the meditation in these games feel special.